There's something that I don't actually understand about this game, right? Why are there discrepancies in the Slayer bosses? Like, why is it that Blaze Slayer past tier 1 requires you to use 2 swords, 2 melee swords though? You can't bow it down, and you can't right-click damage of any kind. But then, for Enderman Slayer, you're watching right now, I can use, like, magic damage completely fine. But then for Zombie Slayer, I can't mage damage, but then people are saying I can for tier 4s, which I haven't tried yet. But for tier 5, you can't, so you have to go back to melee for tier 5. And then for Tarantula, you can just mage the entire way through and completely destroy it, because, like, Tarantula is a joke of a boss. Like, why is that a thing? And then Sven's is just melee. And for almost every single boss that isn't E-Man, you can't use a bow. So Archer gets locked completely from Slayers. And then they're supporting the mage playstyle for some Slayers, and then not allowing it for others. You see what I mean, right, though? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But then, when you look at the Slayer weapons and the Slayer armor, so all the Slayer armor makes sense currently. I mean, it's kind of hard to mess that up. You either get, like, increased defense to the mob. So, obviously, with Final Destination, you get increased Enderman defense. And then Reaper armor is increased zombie defense. And then Mastiff. Mastiff is, you get more HP because, like, wolves do true damage. So, Mastiff destroys your defense, but it gives you a buttload of actual HP, so you get, like, super tanky, and that way you can actually tank the Sven bosses. So, like, the armor is fine, but then the weaponry doesn't make sense. Like, if we look at the Slayer weapons, I'll just type them now. Scorpion Foil, it's like, okay, cool. You know, deal 250% damage to spiders. It's a sword, it's melee, you do damage, right? There's a Scorpion Bow, which is unlocked in the same collection, but you can't kill spiders with it. Why? And, like, the Mosquito Bow, isn't the Mosquito the same? You can't shoot the Spider Slayers with this? You can? Alright. We'll take different example then. We'll take different example. What is the thing from Sven? Sven doesn't have a bow? Okay, Sven only has swords. That's even worse, bro. If we look at the Sven recipes, dude, its only weapons is the Shaman Sword and the Pooch Sword, which is designed to kill Sven. There's no bow in this collection. Like, if I wanted to play Archer and do Sven's, I don't have a bow to do that. I don't have any form of projectile damage that would kill a Sven boss. I also don't have any mage weapon in this collection here. It makes no sense. And same trend happens with Void Gloom. Like, Void Gloom has all these katanas. They're all melee weapons, but there's no mage damage in here. There's a Juju Bow and there's a Terminator. And the Juju and the Term can kill the boss, which is useful, I guess. But there's no mage weapon in here. And then if we go to Revenants, Revenants don't have a melee, a ranged weapon or a magic weapon. They've only got swords as well. Axe of the Shredded, right? You heal health on hit, cool. You deal more damage to zombies. You receive less damage to zombies when you're holding it. This thing is like a zombie killer. That's what it's meant to be. And I saw someone say earlier that the Axe of the Shredded, just use the right-click ability. No. This is not designed to be used strictly for magic damage. It's designed to be melee hit. Does the Terminator do it? Does the Juju do it? Hits 3 mobs on impact can damage Enderman. It doesn't do any bonus damage to Enderman though. But the Atom Split does 250% more damage to Enderman. You receive less damage to Enderman, and it gives you more ferocity against Enderman. Like, what is going on here? Why does this not have any Enderman damage, but this one does, and this one does, and this one, and this one? Like, all the melee weapons do, but the ranged weapons don't. Like, what is this, bro? None of the non-melee Slayer weapons actually buff the Slayers themselves, which I've just never understood. Why is Slayer built in a way where it's supposed to be killed only with melee? I believe the Infernal Demon Lord is the same thing. I unfortunately have not done any Blaze Slayer, so I can't actually, like, show you that. I know that there's an Auric. These things, the Twilight Dagger, they do damage to Blazes and Pigmen. That's because the Blaze boss is consisting of Blaze, Wither Skeletons, and Pigmen, right? But yeah, the Blaze Slayer also has a bunch of daggers, but it doesn't have a bow. It doesn't have any magic weapon. All the Slayer bosses are designed for melee, But as you're looking right now, I'm killing E-Men, Endermen right now using a Hyperion. I can walk around and one-shot them with magic damage, you know. And when I kill my boss, which I'll spawn in a moment, when I kill the boss, I'll kill it fully with magic damage. I'm not going to use a single bit of left-click damage. I'm not going to use the Atom Split or the Void Edge katanas and stuff, even though the game was built for that, which is just really weird. Yeah, okay, aside from my Soul Whip, when I spawn my boss really shortly here, I don't use any form of melee damage. The melee damage is technically an ability anyways. Come on, let's be real. Is this really melee? This is not true melee. Alright, so when he's in hit phase, I use my Bonzo because it's a magic weapon. But the moment he's out of hit phase, I'm gonna go back to using my Hyperion. Okay, get out of hit phase. Alright. I'm out of mana, but that's just the problems of being a mage. He's in hit phase. We regen mana, regen HP. Look, and then it's just back to using magic weapons. I mean, I have been this entire time. Do that. I'm just not going to place my Pazza for the last bit here. Should be enough to kill him. There we go. Done. Whole thing, except for technically the Soul Whip, all done with mage. I've used the Slayer armor, because the Slayer armor is actually good for E-Men. Except this is technically like an all-round set, because it's designed to kill Endermen. It gives you intel, so you can use an intel setup. It gives you strength and attack speed and all that to do melee as well. I mean, technically as well for bows. What it's missing would be Thorns damage, if you want to play like a tanky setup, but I don't know. They kind of... Hypixel doesn't even care about tanks. You can't really do anything as a tank. But yeah, like the whole Slayers are built to be done with melee, even though Hypixel Skyblock technically has 5 different classes. Like if we look at the Crimson Isle armor, right? Let's look at the base stats instead. The base stats, HP, defense, intel. Intel's for mage. The Crimson armor has a little bit of intel, but it's got strength and crit damage, so that applies to your melee damage a lot more. The Fervor armor, this is one that no one talks about because it's unfortunately completely useless and no one cares about it. Gives you HP, defense, and intel. It gives you a lot more health though. 660 health versus like the 580 on the Crimson chestplate, the 580 on the Aurora. So it's definitely stronger. 353 defense versus the 164 and the 164. That's like double. You get almost double the defense using Fervor. And the ability here, blocking damage, gives you a Fervor. Each Fervor reduces incoming damage by 10%. You can taunt enemies when you're hit and gain 3% damage reduction. See, this set is really good for a tank. Like, it's designed to be super tanky. What it's missing is just damage, because it doesn't reflect any damage. So, like, why... Fervor doesn't... Okay, that's a different issue. Let's not get into that right now. And then we have... What the f*** is Hollow? I've never seen that. Terror. Terror is obvious here. Terror has a bucket load of crit damage, because that's really helpful with bows. And if you look at the piece bonus, at 10 stacks, your bow fires 2 extra arrows. You know, this whole thing is supposed to be faster arrows, you know, more arrows, all arrow damage, the archer setup, right? So if you look at the Crimson Isle pieces, it's evident that Skyblock has a technical 4 classes. You've got the technical Berserker, the mage, tank/healer, and then the archer, right? Yet, realistically, like, the only true class that exists in this game is Berserker. It's the only real class that's consistent across every aspect of the game. Because Slayer is catered towards Berserkers in every form, as I've just shown you with all of these collections here. It's also prevalent in dungeons, you know? I could use a Hyperion for left-click damage if I wanted to. Make it a Scylla, make it a Valkyrie. I could use a Giant Sword, I could use a Shadow Fury, right? That's very obvious for dungeons. Almost everything in this game takes some form of melee damage, but not everything in this game will take magic damage. Not everything in this game will take range damage. And, well, I mean, tank just gets left out because no one gives a shit about tank. But yeah, like, why is that an inconsistency? If you pay attention to my entire setup, everything that I'm using to kill this thing as a mage doesn't belong to the E-Man Slayer collection. None of it except for the armor. I have a Juju in my hotbar that I'm not using. You can't count that. The Soul Whip is just, spooky fishing, I think. Wand of Atonement is Revenant Slayer, which is a bit off. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because it's a healing item, so like, whatever, cool. We'll let that one slide. Plasma Flux is from Sven. Doesn't really matter because it's a healing item. It can be transferred across places and whatnot. But the Hyperion's are just a dungeon weapon, or my Scylla, better yet. My AOTV is just, yeah, random item from collections. You know, the Bonzo stuff is also a dungeon item. It's kind of silly, man. I do wish that they had some proper balancing with Slayers. And I guess other aspects of the game too. Berserker is the only real class. Berserker is the only real class. I'm saying it here first. Berserker is the only real class. The Slayer armor, it's like, okay, you get like either increased defense. Oh my god, I killed it. Okay. We survived. You either get like increased